The Pittsburgh Steelers are making moves, and I've got multiple big updates to break to you guys today. My name is Tamir Jean-Charles. This is Steelers Digest, and let's hop right into it. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please get subscribed. We've got some great content coming out in the future, as always. How you doing, Steelers fans? We've got another video coming out ahead of our Week 5 matchup after coming off of the bye. Ahead of our Week 5 matchup against the Cleveland Browns. A game that we should be winning. Probably go talk about it more in depth as we get to Sunday at 1 o'clock. But it's not Joe Flacco. We've got Dillon Gabriel, the rookie out of Oregon, to deal with in that game. So we'll see what Terrell Austin and Mike Tomlin has up their sleeves for that one. But until we get there, we've got practice squad updates, signing updates. As you see, Adam Schefter breaks, veteran running back, returner Raheem Blackshear is signing to the Pittsburgh Steelers practice squad. This is kind of a Cordell Patterson type signing, not in terms of build, but just in terms of versatility. He played running back for the Panthers. He played wide receiver for the Panthers. He was a returner for the Panthers, punt return and kick return. And not a lot of, 27 years old, not a lot of people know about him. If there is one thing I could say that this move opens the door up more for, is probably Caleb Johnson more touches. I know we talked about, what he's done on kick return with the mistake he's had. Had a little bit of a good showing against Minnesota with Jaylen Warren being out. So, it's not like we can sit him for disciplinary purposes. It's kind of like the Patriots situation yesterday, and not just yesterday at Sunday Night Football, but throughout the whole season. And we played the Patriots obviously, so we saw this in our game. But Ramondre Stevenson was fumbling, Antonio Gibson was fumbling, and he also unfortunately tore his ACL last night against the Bills at Highmark. But when these guys fumble, as a fan, and not really as a fan, but as a coach, you want to be there in terms of, we're going to need you. And, obviously he knows that can't happen, but, we're going to keep giving you the rock. But if guys are hurt, then you can't really do that because, Kenneth Gainwell isn't really a guy that you're going to give, 32, 35 touches a game. He's just, and he's staying in the lineup 10 plays straight. It's not really what we got him there for. So we saw, even with the mistakes he did make in the first game against New York and the mistake he made against Seattle, we saw Caleb Johnson in there against Minnesota in Dublin. And I wouldn't say he carried it well, but with the opportunities he had, you could see the effort he's making on holding on to the football, two hands on the football when running into contact, stuff like that. So maybe this opens up the door for more touches on offense, even when Jaylen Warren comes back. And you can kind of, when a lot of these moves are so minuscule, if you want to call it that, but a lot of these moves kind of show you, these small moves like this kind of show you what the coaching staff thinks of this team. We've got a playoff squad. I mean, obviously the running joke with Pittsburgh is, gets the wild card and losing the wild card, haven't won a playoff game in 10, 11 years. But I think they think that this team can go really far in the playoffs, so they're keeping guys healthy. Maybe with the room that we have with Jaylen Warren, Kenneth Gainwell, Caleb Johnson. Obviously, we saw Trey Sermon returning kickoffs in Dublin. He got called up for that game. We still have Lou Nichols. So these are guys that, if injuries do happen, say someone takes a week off like Jaylen Warren did. He actually got hurt, but just using that just to say, say you just hurt for 1 week and it's not extended. Other guys can come in that situation, and we've got a practice squad player like Raheem Blackshear who's got multitude of experience returning punts and returning kickoffs, so he knows what to do. It's basically plug and play, and that's what you want at this stage of the season and beyond. You don't have to bring people up to speed, right? Like, it's tough if you would have made the signing of a UDFA, who I will talk about later in this video. But it'd be tough if you signed a UDFA to return kickoffs and return punts. You got to explain rules, and it's a bit tougher. But if I can just plug and play with a guy that has experience doing this at the highest level, it makes it so much more easier. So, like I said, those are the running backs that the Pittsburgh Steelers currently employ. Jaylen Warren, who was just out, he's the number one. Kenneth Gainwell, who had a career day against the Vikings. Obviously, Caleb Johnson's number 3. Trey Sermon, who's on the practice squad, is number 4. He's free to be called up and down as the coaches please. Same with Lou Nichols, and obviously the same with Raheem Blackshear, who knows if wide receivers get hurt, can also be called up, as well as Isaiah Hodgins, who I talked about in the other video, who came from the Giants, played on the Bills, and played on the 49ers. So good moves in that room. And next to talk about is Jack Henderson. Now, this is a UDFA out of Minnesota. He's a DB. Ran a 4.47, who you'll see that in the next slide. So I wouldn't think he could play on the outside, but probably just a nickel or a dime slot guy to bring in on extra packages. Like I said, if injuries pop up in that room, which obviously they have. We saw Deshaun Elliott with that MCL sprain. Jalen Ramsey, who we kind of play at safety in our base packages, goes back there. So those two, and obviously Elliott came back, but those are two guys in that similar room. Obviously, Jalen Ramsey's not listed as a safety, but that's where he plays for us, from down to down. So two guys like that have gone down. So that leaves Jabril Peppers, who plays on special teams, doesn't really get any snaps, only kind of got snaps against the Patriots, his former team, which he got a fumble recovery in that game. So I guess he did do good when he's not just on special teams. Obviously, Juan Thornhill, who plays a lot. Chuck Clark, who now is on the squad, but he used to be a practice squad player to start the year. Chuck Clark was a practice squad player to start the year. And then obviously Miles Killebrew, who is a team captain, our special teams beast, who we don't really get to see a lot of on the field playing actual free safety. We're just used to seeing him on, field goals, trying to block field goals, trying to block punts, special teams, stuff like that. So Jack Henderson is a guy who can do it. 26 games with the Gophers, 103 tackles, 61 of them solo tackles, 14 TFLs, 7 sacks, 5 passes defended, 3 picks, a forced fumble, and a fumble recovery. It's pretty active. Obviously, southeastern Louisiana is where he's got the brunt of all of his production. But, this is a guy who had a really, really, really good combine. And as you guys already know, we make jokes about this. I'm not a real big combine guy, but for UDFAs to find some value on, okay, you're a UDFA because of what? Is it where you played? Is it your technique, coaching? Does your college just not really get recruited that well? There's so many different factors because there's a lot of UDFAs that end up being good in the league. So there's a lot of factors to being drafted. Exposure is one of them. So this is a guy that ran a 4.47, 40-inch vert, the broad, the shuttle, his 3-cone. Obviously, the bench probably needs to be a little bit higher. It's probably what turned off a lot of organizations when looking at his combine, and maybe it did show up on film as well. But this is another guy that we've added to the room. He's a practice squad player as well as Raheem Blackshear. So injuries or poor play, and maybe he can get called up and help the Pittsburgh Steelers down the stretch, because I don't know if any of you noticed, but the AFC is not looking as good as it once was, especially in our division. We're dealing with Jake Browning, Dillon Gabriel, and Cooper Rush. I don't know if you need me to say that again. We're dealing with Dillon Gabriel, who's a rookie, Jake Browning, and Cooper Rush. We have to take full advantage. we have to take full advantage, as to the point where, and obviously we beat the Patriots, and the Bills, who were the only undefeated team in the NFL after the Eagles lost to the Broncos, they lost to the Patriots. So AFC's up for grabs. I don't want to go off on a limb here. It's, we're going into week 5, week 6. I don't want to go off on a limb here and say number 1 seed, but that's what the coaching staff is looking at. That's what the players are looking at. So, these division games, I call them gimme games now. Before, they're a bit tough. They're a bit trickier. You're going up against Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, whoever the Browns has. They always have a QB carousel, whoever they had. But it was, the AFC North, we were the pinnacle of football. So these are gimme games now. We need to win these games. Got Dylan Gabriel on Sunday, and we'll see what we can do. This is all the news I have for you, Yinzers. I'll catch you guys later in the week with the more intel leading up to the Browns game. Peace.